Let's start with one of the most important players on the entire roster, though, DJ Moore, who had some interesting comments last night in Green Bay about Luke Getsy. Not exactly a ringing endorsement, the way that he endorsed his quarterback. Now, DJ Moore, at the point, just for context, he talked to reporters in the locker room today. He had already had his exit interview with Flus and Flus and Poles. In fact, he had just come from that before talking to reporters. And eventually the conversation shifted to Justin Fields, with Adam Johns asked DJ Moore just a question about his quarterback, and DJ Moore has already been very vocal about wanting Fields back.
Without giving away details, how much did Justin come up in the meeting?
And what meeting? We had several meetings. I mean, it was bored up. I bored him up, of course. He's the quarterback for the Chicago Bears until otherwise. I don't think that's changing anytime soon. So, we'll see.
How would you like that to work out?
Like what? For Justin to be here? It'll work. It'll be amazing. Nobody wants to really start all the way over and either have a losing season again or maybe have what's the quarterback from the Bengals when he came out, Joe Burrow. We could have that kind of season. You never know. It's a hit or miss. So we're gonna have to wait and see.
DJ, what's the biggest difference between being a Chicago Bear versus being with the Panthers?
More wins. And thanks to them, we got the number 1 overall pick, so they made it harder on us right now.
I'll enjoy the ending there. Biggest difference between the Panthers and the Bears, more wins. Well, at least this year, that was the case.
And the other part of that clip, if you watch the video that Nick Moriano shared from the locker room, there's a little smirk on his face as he's saying this, which I think body language-wise kind of gives a more context to the quote.
So he straight up comes out and says, the exact quote is, and you just heard it there, DJ Moore on Justin Fields. He's the quarterback for the Chicago Bears until otherwise, and I don't think that's changing anytime soon. Now, I would caution you from taking that as gold that DJ Moore has this feeling that Fields is coming back.
Bears Twitter already has.
Yeah, I'm sure they have. Because I sincerely doubt we can make the conclusion here that DJ Moore went into that meeting with Flus and Poles today and said, I want Fields to come back. Okay? He's pretty much said that out loud. I highly doubt the response right away from Ryan Poles was, okay. Decision over. So now maybe he left that meeting with the feeling that they listened to him and they took everything he had to say very seriously, but he even gave himself an exit point there because he brought up, you could have Joe Burrow, number 1 pick, who hot start right away. Pretty much right away we knew what he was.
Well, and he also said he's the quarterback until otherwise.
Yeah.
So he underlined a rookie who came in and boosted his team and lifted him deep into the playoffs immediately. So, look.
He also had to ask who the quarterback was in Cincinnati.
Yeah, listen. DJ Moore, anybody in that locker room, their job is to perform at a high level, and they're going to have to get on board with whatever the organization does. My read of what DJ's been doing and saying, and he stepped out for his guy, and he was pretty excited when he was asked about his exit interviews, that he was going to go in there and speak his mind, and as a veteran, as one of, if not the top guy on the team, he was going to willingly give his opinion, which he should. Now, here's the slight turn on the whole thing. Just a reminder, and it's not on him, DJ Moore is obviously not the problem on the Bears, but the most games that DJ Moore has ever won in a season is 7 games. That was this year. He won 7 games once with the Panthers, too. He's had a ton of 5-win seasons. He's never made a Pro Bowl. So we're not talking about. I just think don't get it wrong. Great player, happy he's here, had a phenomenal year, should have been a Pro Bowler. So I'm not going to just put it all on awards, but This is not like listening to him. We're not listening to somebody who's got 5 championship rings. I just think it's a little bit worth just noting when you look at his resume.
Yeah, but it certainly is profound. I mean, to me, maybe profound's too strong a word, but since the Cleveland game, every week after games, every Monday on 670, he's continuing to apply the pressure to his own GM, the guy that traded for him to come here, the guy that hands him his game checks every week. And other players are also applying the pressure. As we mentioned before, they're not so shy to say Luke Getsy ain't cutting the job, but they're standing out for their quarterback, and I get players are going to stand up for the other players in the locker room. But, Ryan Poles is in that locker room too. He's not a player, but he's a part of this. They're all trying to win a Super Bowl. So I do find it interesting that one of the main leaders on this team is applying that kind of pressure on the GM when we all know that this decision is a big one. He's not making it any easier on Ryan. And he doesn't want to. I mean, he's clearly made that decision. He doesn't want to make that decision easy on Ryan Poles, so he's going to make it harder.
Yeah, but what kind of real pressure do you think that is?
I think there's a percentage. It's not like the end-all, be-all. At the end of the day, Ryan's going to have to do what he has to do. But there's a percentage, 100%.
One thing
about culture.
Yeah, one thing I think we can say about this culture, and something that Poles, and I think Flus is behind it a lot because we've heard a lot of his defensive players say this, is they've created an open forum for their players to speak their minds,
which is great,
behind the scenes, and take in feedback. That's a lot of what these exit meetings are, and we've seen bits and pieces of that creep out into the media too, as these guys do more and more interviews. So I don't know what that necessarily means. I just think it's interesting, and I think that's what DJ Moore's doing here. And I think it's important to keep in mind, though, that as much as DJ Moore is hyping up Justin Fields, he's not going to be a malcontent if they move on.
Thank you. That's what I'm saying.
And I don't think anyone else in that locker room is either.
No, but in the moment, maybe there'll be some frustrations. Mini camp, training camp comes around, everybody's going to try to come together as a team. But when the season starts, and if this is the decision they make, it's a results-driven business for fans, coaches, media, players. And when they're on the field, and if they're not playing well in a season where they're going to have expectations, I don't care who the quarterback is, and if Justin Fields is on another team playing well, that's where I'm not saying like he's a malcontent. I'm saying the locker room will become malcontent to what is happening to them, because they then have to go to the media after games that they lose, and they'll be asking, well, why are you guys struggling? And some of these players will be like, well, you know what? I didn't want to get rid of the quarterback last year. That's a down the road issue, but it's a results driven business to me, and that's where the rubber will meet the road.
We all silly like the mayor.